Hi, ladies. I can't believe it's already week 10, but this is the beginning of the 10th week of 16 or 17 weeks of class. So that's kind of exciting. One thing I want to make sure to mention today is that mid-quarter grades are due this week for me. And so if you could email me if there's any work that you turned in late that I didn't grade, that would be really helpful. This week you're going to be reading chapter 3 of her story, and this week you're reading about the Reformation. So I want to talk about that for a moment. The Reformation began with Martin Luther. Officially began. There were some kind of things that led to the Reformation. There was some corruption that was pretty evident in the church. Also in the North, where the Reformation began, right before this, Johannes Gutenberg had invented the printing press, which allowed people to actually have printed Bibles in their home. People were more literate, so they could read more, and now that they can read more, they are interpreting things for themselves, and it's obviously going to lead to some more free thinking. Also, at the time, it was kind of common that, people might debate in a public way religious things that they didn't necessarily agree on. And so Martin Luther wrote down 95 things he didn't agree with. Martin Luther was a Catholic priest, had spent, much of his life as a Catholic priest. I don't think it's true or fair to say that he set out to start the Reformation, but in his list of 95 grievances with the church, this did eventually inspire people to kind of start their own churches or to reform their idea of church and begin new churches. And some of his grievances dealt with the selling of indulgences, which was priests basically saying, hey, you want to get out of purgatory quicker? Pay us some money and we'll make sure that happens. Or you want to get your Uncle Billy Joe Jim Bob out of purgatory, then I'll help you with that if you give me some money. And so there were lots of issues. Another one that was true for Martin Luther is that he strongly believed that nothing should be taught in the church that isn't straight from the Bible. And he also believed strongly that our faith alone is what saves us or means that we get to go to heaven. And it doesn't have anything to do with our works or our actions. And we as Catholics have always taught that it's faith and good works that get us to heaven. St. James wrote that faith without works is dead. And so our belief is that if you really do have faith, that would naturally show through your actions. Anyway, Martin Luther wrote down his grievances. This was posted on the door of a church in Wittenberg, Germany. I've read a couple of theories about this. Most people believe that Martin Luther himself posted this list. Some people believe, though, that he sent it to a friend who then posted the list. And again, it's not that big of a deal because at the time people were more used to, publicizing something that they wanted to debate so they could do this publicly. But because people believed or agreed with Martin Luther, it really kind of spread rapidly. And so word of this got to the Vatican. They asked him to denounce what he said. He refused to do that. He was executed and his followers started the Lutheran Church. And of course, this kind of opened the door for a lot of different ideas and a lot of different people to start different churches. So you'll read a little bit about that and more how it affected women. So Martin Luther kind of believed that the teaching about celibacy of the priesthood was unnecessary, and so he married, and this kind of gave a new role to the wife in a marriage, that her job was kind of to pass on the faith and to be the teacher of the children. And so this did kind of make women a little bit more equal in the home, or at least a little more important. They had an important job to do. And so you'll read about how that impacted women in this week's chapter. You do have a discussion this week also, so make sure you participate in that. And I want to talk a little bit about the second paper that you're going to do. The second paper is due on November 11th, Friday, November 11th by noon. And in order to write this paper, you need to watch a movie first. There's a list of movies in the syllabus. And all of these movies are owned by College of St. Mary's and are in the library there, so you can check them out. If you do that, it would be most helpful if you could simply watch them, excuse me, if you could watch them there at the library or take them home and return them immediately so your classmates have access to them as well. The paper is a reaction paper, so you can use personal pronouns. It doesn't involve any research. You would need a works cited page if you quote the movie, but you would simply be quoting the movie or citing the movie. And it has to be 2 to 3 pages this time, so it's also shorter. But that is due November 11th, so finding time to watch the movie would be a good idea soon. I think that's all. Again, let me know about any of those late assignments that I didn't grade, and have a great week.